What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster back here on this beautiful Tuesday night. It is April 25th, 2023, about 9:48 p.m. here along the west coast in the state of California. And latest earthquake shows a 4.5 here around the Mariana Islands coming in. Looks like latest quake on the globe. So it's been quite active across areas that we've been watching here for a little while, and that includes areas around New Zealand. And take a look at that. These are not Yellowstone National Park seismograph stations. These are seismograph stations located there across the New Zealand area. They've seen a pretty good swarm of earthquake activity picking up here over the last 12 hours or so. And, well, let's see what's going on here. One of these stations here have quite a bit of activity kicking up on it. I'm going to go here to the earthquake map, show you guys what's going on here across the area. Now, the GeoNet servers are reporting a 5.9 earthquake earlier at 10:16 local time there for New Zealand. And I went ahead and pulled up the earthquake activity today here from the USGS, and they're reporting this earthquake, which would be this one, as a 5.4. Now, that's quite a difference between a 5.4 and a 5.9, so I'm not going to argue which one's right. All I know is that 5.9 was reported by, well, 22,000 reports. Some reports of it being extreme shaking. Now that's extreme. That's like your house is falling off the foundation type of extreme. But only 28 people are reporting that earthquake being extreme. Most of the people reported some moderate to light, even weak shaking, mostly all over the North Island, New Zealand area. And I did have this on my tongue a couple hours ago correctly, and I can't get it right now, so I'm not going to slaughter it. I know it's not that hard, but for some reason I can't catch it. So I'll practice that tonight in my sleep and hopefully come out with the correct pronunciation there tomorrow. But either way, a lot of earthquake activity ramping up here, folks. So USGS reporting 2 earthquakes. Now this is only 4.5 and above, but as we've seen on the earthquake 3D globe, there's quite a bit more. And also there on the GeoNet servers than what the USGS is reporting. So let's take a look at this here. These are going to be the weak and above. And there's quite a bit of 2s kicking up out here in that area. As you can see right here, we'll get rid of this one, and we'll just zoom into this area of interest, into the North Island, New Zealand area. And you can see we got a pretty good swarm of earthquake activity stretching here around this area. Gosh darn it. A little disappointed in myself because I know I had that earlier. Either way, okay, moving on. We are noticing a little bit of a pattern here. Notice that migration here across New Zealand, North Island, stretching off towards the coast. Now, some of these earthquakes upstream look a lot shallower than some of the movement inland. Some deeper activity occurring into this area. Let's see what we got here. Most of these are around 13 kilometers or so, but there's some shallow earthquake activity stretching off here towards the coast, eastern coast here of North Island. And you know, it's hard to say if they're going to see anything major jumping off here. Remember, I was chatting here the past couple videos about how New Zealand needs to catch up. It's been very active around the Tonga Trench. A whole bunch of westward movement here, momentum and pressure around the Pacific Plate and adjacent plates. And New Zealand eventually will catch up. But it's hard to say if there's going to be a bigger one than what we're seeing. We'll check out the historical data here in just a second. But as you can see, Australia Plate, Pacific Plate interaction here, kind of a big deal running across the New Zealand area. Now we do have a major subduction zone that sits offshore here, and that is the the Hikurangi subduction zone. But there's also other fault systems at play here, so it's hard to say if this is strictly related to the Hikurangi or not. But moving into the area of interest here, I want to see what we got for historical data, specifically around this region that we're seeing today. It's in this little area right here. So we're going to check this out. Looks as though it's going to be right about here. Doesn't look like there's anything specific right at that area, but just to the north, looks like 1951 had a 6.3 earthquake along this area. That's a lot of time that's passed since that earthquake. And a little bit further down south, 5.5, Castle Point, New Zealand area, back in 1992. 6.1, 1938. A lot of older quakes out here, if you notice that. We did have 5.6 back in 2015. But far as recent large-scale activity goes, well, it's been a while for this area of New Zealand. Of course, Christchurch area, quite a few years back here had that pretty large one. But specifically up north here, the last big one, 7.4, 1931. We're closing in on almost 100 years of seismic buildup for this area. And this is just what the USGS is reporting here from the Earthquake Catalog book. 1931 actually had a couple sevens here within this area. Kind of a big deal. Definitely shaking things up out there. But let's see, 2007 we had 6.6, well offshore here though, of the Gisborne area. And 1990 a 6.4. But I would definitely say we are, I think we're a little overdue here for some larger movement, more so than what we're seeing. And if this is indeed the correct magnitude, compared to the GeoNet servers reporting it as a 5.9. With this type of activity, the swarm kicking up, some moderate-sized earthquakes in there as well, this could be pointing to something a little bit bigger. Not 100% guaranteed, but, swarms of this magnitude in nature can point towards a larger quake about ready to happen. So just be safe, stay on guard out there. Doesn't look like... I'm not for sure what the population density is out here specifically within this area. I know down south, obviously, Wellington area, that's a big area. But out here, I don't know. Not for sure how large this community is out here, but kind of hard to tell here on the map. Doesn't look that big. Just looks like a few houses, actually. And... either way, New Zealand's beautiful. I definitely want to visit that area one of these days. But the earthquake potential is very similar, to kind of out here along the west coast in California. And perhaps more so as far as the danger zone goes out here across the Alpine Fault and the Hikurangi subduction zone and numerous other fault systems up here that run through the North Island, New Zealand area. So we'll continue to watch that. They did put out a little article here. The GeoNet servers... severe quake shakes this area. This was put out about 5 hours ago, and 22 kilometers deep for that 5.9. Supposedly, that's what they are reporting. This was closely followed by a 5.4 aftershock. Both earthquakes were felt widely throughout the North Island area. Looks like there has been 87 earthquakes in the sequence following the 5.9 at 10:16 a.m. The largest was a 5.4 that occurred just 3 minutes following the 5.9. So quite an uptick. Okay, so it is located along the Hikurangi subduction zone, which drives much of the earthquake activity along the east coast of the North Island. The region also experiences slow slip events similar to the Cascadia subduction zone, which are earthquakes that happen very slowly and are not felt. Those are tremors. We call those tremors. Scientists are continually doing work to understand more about our seismic activity and the subduction process behind it. Some of these scientific investigations involve field work and the deployment of additional sensors and equipment. Okay, we'd like to thank everyone. Tsunami. No tsunami, but, just know, that, and I'm sure New Zealand is aware of the Hikurangi and the tsunami potential that does exist if that big one were to take place above an 8 for that area of the Hikurangi subduction zone. Many people reported feeling the shaking as long or strong and may have evacuated to higher ground. We applaud these people. That's good, right? A lot better than just sitting around seeing what's going to happen. During strong earthquake events, people are advised to head to higher ground if they feel shaking that is long or strong and follow the instructions of the local civil defense. In this case, the earthquakes did not invoke a tsunami threat. So that's the latest information here from the GeoNet servers in regards to the recent uptick in earthquake activity here across the New Zealand region. Again, it's definitely ramping up. It's hard to say though if we're done with the activity, because it's all dependent on if that 5.4 that the USGS is reporting is actually the main quake. It just doesn't seem like I don't know. It just seems like kind of like a swarm of activity that we need to monitor just in case there's something bigger popping up. But if it was indeed a 5.9, then hey, aftershocks and whatnot are definitely likely, and no doubt 5.9 can produce a 5.2 aftershock most likely. But still, kind of an area to watch pretty closely here, folks. Again, the earthquake drums here in New Zealand. It's off this map here, but goodness, that was quite the jolt, right? You can definitely see the duration of the first event much longer here, right? And probably more stronger as well on the web recorder on the earthquake drum. But it's hard to say if it was close to a 6. It really is. Just have to see which one's right. It's just, major magnitude difference there from a 5.4 to a 5.9. Either way, it was a broad area that was felt here with earthquake activity. So the most recent station here, or the closest station, looks to be, there's Black Stump Farm. I do have that seismograph station keyed up here, monitoring the earthquake activity. I didn't get to see that seismograph station when that came in. It was probably flatlined this entire data. But far as aftershock activity goes around this region of the 5.9, things have mellowed out. Pretty active there following those events, those 2 5s. But now looks as though things are mellowing out a little bit here, folks. But still be on guard, stay safe. Make sure you have an earthquake planned, as always, down in the beautiful New Zealand area. Timothy, one of our moderators here in the chat room, resides down there. Very good source of information there for the New Zealand region. So just be on guard. Up here around the Guam area, a little bit of activity around the Mariana Trench is noted. 118 kilometers deep. Some deeper movement taking place here along the trenches that will spell some potential for some surface quaking up here. More shallower earthquake activity here in the coming hours, if not minutes. So we'll watch this area pretty closely. A little bit of activity off the coast here of Japan. 55 kilometer deep here for 4.5 and a 4.4 earlier this morning. So, definitely want to watch this area here along the Kuril Kamchatka. This is pretty much our quiet zone up here. It's been quiet as far as larger scale magnitude goes across this area of the Pacific Plate, and it's a major accumulator of stress out here, and it's been awfully long since we've seen a mega quake in this area, which is very capable of. Not talking about the Japan one, that's down along the Japan Trench here, but the Kuril Kamchatka Trench just north definitely has potential for some damaging earthquakes. All right, 2.8 Java Trench coming in as well in the green flag. A little bit of activity here at the Sumatra area. Remember, we had that larger movement just off the coast of Sumatra here. Days are getting mixed up. The sun, ever since that big solar weather event there, my mind's just been a little scrambled. 7.1, that was coming in yesterday, but past the 24-hour period. But now it kind of looks like we're getting a little bit of migration here, as noted on the Earthquake 3D program, up further along the trench. And it's definitely expected with the momentum and the general plate activity out here. 5.7 out into the, goodness, that's a pretty good size one, in the divergent boundaries of the Indian Ocean here. Spreading seafloor like a zipper, so to speak. Look at these, look at this pattern. It's like pretty much an oceanic zipper there in the oceanic crust. At the Vema Trench, it looks like. Vema? 5.7 coming in earlier this afternoon, 10 kilometers deep. Very typical there of the default depth of the earthquake and those divergent boundaries. Up north into the areas around Middle East and the Turkey area. Looks like Turkey's seen a couple moderate earthquakes today. A couple, looks like at least a 4.2. And some smaller 3s and 2s in the mix there. Slight uptick across the region. Also across areas of the Mediterranean as well. Atlantic Ocean showing a little bit of further movement down south, way down south into the South Sandwich Trench again with a 4.8. I say again because we've had a little bit of uptick down here over the last 7 days. Had a couple 5s down here on the southern end. And it looks as though that's where that activity is currently focused on here at the southern end of the South Sandwich Trench. The South America region, let's see what we got here on the Earthquake 3D globe. Some older movement there. It looks like that 5.5 out into the Chile Rise area from this morning, 4 o'clock. Early in the morning. I don't want to be up that early, but sometimes I find myself waking up that early for some reason. Not good. Also 5.3 into the Ecuador area from last night. But overall seismic activity looks fairly minimal down there into the South America region. We do have a 4.1 coming in right now into the, looks like the Middle America Trench area, just off the coast possibly of the Nicaragua area, or El Salvador, down here. USGS not picking up on that yet, 4.1. See if it's picking up on any seismograph stations. I'm really not seeing it. Of course, I don't have anything specifically around that area. I guess the closest, it's kind of in between. It's in between Southern California and the South America region, so I'm probably not going to pick that up. Smaller earthquake. But either way, definitely a noticeable trend across the Middle America Trench southward into areas around the Ecuador area, all showing some heightened movement. Puerto Rico, let's see what we got here for the Puerto Rico area. Back out of here. See, you wouldn't know that, right? You think this area is calm and clear, but it's not. We're definitely seeing some earthquake activity out here. And this thing refreshes itself, so I shouldn't have to. Just some 2s kicking off here. Doesn't look like anything major. The last one was a 2.3 into the swarming area of the Puerto Rico region. All right, let's see what else we have for. It's just an active day, broad scale activity pretty much all over the place. Big island of Hawaii. Been watching an earthquake swarm there recently. Looks like we still have some earthquake activity there over the last 24 hours. Somewhat deep as well, down to about 6 kilometers or so. Let's go ahead and check out the Hazard Notification Center from the USGS. Here's the daily update there on Kilauea. I think we read this morning here. It doesn't look like there's any major changes there. No unusual activity, just some typical earthquake swarms on occasion, but still continuing to watch that. I think there's definitely something brewing underneath here. All right, up into the Alaska area. A couple of smaller quakes across the region. Nothing major going on here in the area. Looks like a couple smaller quakes here along the Aleutian Trench. All right, West Coast activity. Looks like the coast range over here is lighting up a little bit. Outside of Ukiah, we do have 2.5 just west of the Clear Lake area. Not for sure why the fault systems are not showing up here. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. That's kind of weird. Now they are. Just that specific window. Okay, that's a little odd, so that makes me want to close it. Along the Macama Fault. Pretty lengthy coast fault system here. Just shy of the plate boundary that sits offshore here, the San Andreas Fault. A little 2.5. Some activity down here into the Clear Lake volcanic field as well. Hydrothermal operations there in full swing. Pacific Northwest, quiet. Let's check on the tremor map. See what's going on. There we go. We're looking at a decline of activity. I was definitely certain that we would see a larger scale uptick than what we've seen there along the Cascadia for tremor activity. This is similar to what the GeoNet servers are talking about, slow slip events along a major subduction zone. And in this case, it's the Cascadia, which is the major player out here along the Pacific Northwest for one of these days, a very damaging earthquake. Last one back in 1700, 9.0. Is the estimated magnitude along with the subsequent tsunami Pacific-wide. So yeah, only 78 epicenters of tremor. What that means? Well, it just means it's a little bit shorter duration and not as strong as events in the past. And we have seen them before. Little just areas of small tremor events. It looks like it's pretty much over. So we'll just kind of watch and see how this plays out there. It's awfully quiet into the Pacific Northwest right now. Yellowstone National Park, it looks like they added a couple earthquakes here onto the map. Of course, this area has been swarming a little bit too. Looks as though not as much as what we seen last night. Here's just a little blip of it up here, getting ready to drop off the map. And there's not a whole lot of activity over the last, since that event last night. A little handful of earthquakes, but nothing spectacular going on here. I'm still not for certain what this reading is here. It doesn't look like it showed up across any other local seismograph stations. None. So hard to say exactly what that was. But definitely didn't show up anywhere else. All right. Moving on here to... We kind of jumped from Northern Cal all the way up to Wyoming, huh? Forgot to check down here into the southern part of the state of California. A little earthquake here outside of the Elsinore Fault, 1.0. See if we got any further activity in this swarm. It looks like that swarm near Borrego Springs came to a halt early this morning, about 9 o'clock. Did have a little flurry of earthquakes there in that little swarm, but for the most part, that's died off. The southern branch here of the San Andreas Fault remains quiet. And what do we got here? A little query blast. All right, yeah, looks Southern California is somewhat quiet there, aside from those small microquakes. Into the Texas region, most of these here from yesterday and late last night. Looks like we only had one 2.9 here, a little bit further west of this area around the oil fields, but still, it's been pretty active there over the last 24 hours. Oklahoma, about the same, a couple smaller microquakes, and let's see, when was this earthquake? Earlier this morning here outside the White Mountains area, New Hampshire. Center Sandwich? Is that right? Goodness, never heard of that. But yeah, a little 2.9 coming in early this morning. Doesn't look like we've seen anything further up north. But let's go ahead and check out Earthquakes Canada and see what we have going on, because there's that one from this morning into the New Hampshire area. Okay, over here along the Cascadia, though, looks like there's some events going on up here at the northern end at a 3.0. That was from earlier today, it looks like. Also a little bit of movement into the center of the plate. In this case, it's going to be, Juan de Fuca plate, close to the Explorer plate here. Well, a lot of people just like to call this a Juan de Fuca plate, so we'll just call that as it is for now. But a little flurry and swarming activity centered into the northern end here of the Cascadia, 3.2 from earlier today as well. Nothing else going on across Canada, it looks like, for now. All right, let's see what else is there, folks. Yeah, just definitely got to watch a few areas. New Zealand, definitely one of them. Seeing if I missed anything out here. It doesn't look like there's just a lot of activity here. This is the last 24 hours too. Super duper active. All right, let's check out the space weather activity here real quick. See if we got anything noteworthy to chat about. There's a G1 class storm coming up here in a couple days. It looks like on the 28th. That's going to be due to the coronal hole number 96 that has been facing us, starting to drift away here now towards the western limb of the sun. But the high-speed solar particles here, the charged particles, will be hitting the Earth around that time frame, it looks like, on the 28th, sparking up potentially a G1 class storm. Nothing like what we've seen here a couple days ago with all the auroras shooting down into the lower 48. Definitely pretty impressive. Still kind of see it right there. But this is a kick up around the KP index of 5. Continue to watch that, though, and see how that plays out. Flare threat looks like 50% chance for a C flare. M flare at 10% and less than 1% for the remainder of the chart. Getting a little bit better perspective and look here at this large sunspot around the northeastern limb of the sun that is rotating into view. It looks fairly complex from this angle. We'll watch that and hopefully we won't jinx it. Hopefully this will stay together and develop into some some activity that would bring us some further auroras in the coming days. It's going to take a few days to get across across to this area where we can get a better look at it. But aside from these sunspots right now, a little growth up here with this sunspot, but really nothing at all that would be noteworthy to look into. UV filter here showing that regional sunspot up here, the one that we're going to keep an eye on here in the coming days. Aside from that, the sun looks absolutely beautiful. All right, folks, I think that's about it. Nothing major going on. Well, did see some hail out there in Texas earlier. Watching a couple of the storm chasers here on YouTube, and goodness, they were had some pretty good hail. Quite a few windows got quite a bit of cracks in it. Storm Prediction Center, here's tonight. Looks like there's still a little threat for mostly large hail out there in Texas. Tomorrow, a little bit more enhanced. That include areas around Dallas-Fort Worth area with about a 5% chance for a tornado out there. That's going to be EF2 to EF5 tornadoes within 25. Well, this isn't really hatched, so we're looking at just a 5% chance for tornadoes in general. No hatched area. I think the main threat tomorrow is going to be wind, and there's the hatched area for hail, and that's going to be 2-inch diameter hail or larger within 25 miles of a point. So somewhat of a significant hail threat again tomorrow for Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington area. And after that, looks like that area of interest shifts east a little bit. All right, yeah. I think that's about it, folks. Just stay safe out there and be alert and be on guard. That's the best thing to do. I kind of like how, you know, the folks down there in New Zealand took to higher ground when the ground started shaking. That's the best thing you can do. You feel some strong shaking out there, head to the higher ground if you're along the coastline. That's obviously the best thing to do. A lot of people, you know, I don't know, they just don't think about the tsunami potential, but it's there. New Zealand has it. North Island, New Zealand, the Hikurangi subduction zone is it's a major player in producing some large earthquakes out there. Alrighty, guys, I'm going to jump off here. It's been a long day. I put up the pool here, and well, I had a little issue with it. So I'm going to finish that tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to enjoy the pool time, because it's supposed to be I don't know, I think 93, 94 degrees tomorrow, close to 100 here in a couple days in Northern California. So we're not even in the summertime yet. It's going to be a hot one. Have a good one, guys. If you notice, I do have the fans here on the background because of the warmer weather kicking up. I got to keep all my stuff much cooler, so it will be on in the background, but hopefully not overloaded. It doesn't look like it's overloading my microphone, but I definitely have to have it on. Have a good night, folks. We'll catch you guys back here sometime tomorrow. Stay safe.